Yeah, I guess technically.
turns out.
That isn't like Nicol Bolas the Planeswalker, you know, but not that card actually. Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh, whatever.
Yeah.
I forget that like his original Planeswalker card is just Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. It's like, oh, cool. That's not confusing to talk about when you print other Nicol Bolas Planeswalker cards. Thanks.
I mean, they listen to make like Nicol Bolas, Elden Dragon, Highlander.
Yeah. But this I think like if there is a deck that exists for this card, it's definitely like this is a small set. It's also not very like expensive overall, so it's not going to be this could be like the voice of resurgence of this set potentially, or it could literally do nothing in standard. So that's kind of one of those
Lone Rider deck with our.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh!
All right, I gain
That's
3 life this
literally-
turn. End of turn, I'll trigger transform and get a horse. What now?
It's literally the Lone Ranger deck.
Oh man, so this is like a sweet too, because like if you ever like you just get to play like 4 Blessed Alliance if you want to as well. So you can like, all right, you sacrifice an attacking creature, I'll gain 4 life, and a turn get a horse. Like, no. Now I just gotta protect these ponies.
Yeah.
One last thought on this. I mean, you mentioned the demon dodging a lot of the removal in standard. I mean, this is also a 5/5 for costed at 5,
yeah,
so it
sure.
doesn't get fatal push. So just something to take note of.
No, I agree.
Very true. The downside is it doesn't really have any evasion. Like it just gets like blocked for days. But
Yeah, if you play 2 of them, you're probably feeling good.
Yeah.
Unless you get Howard. We'll talk about that.
yeah, it's very true. But just play this with if you make a token, make a 2 of that token. Spectral something or whatever.
Oh no! Oh, got so many horses.
Anointed procession.
Anointed Procession. That's
So
what I'm
many
thinking.
horses.
Yeah, there's many ways.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you can
so-
build this deck.
Oh man! So like that one, and then the thing that you gain a life whenever a token comes
Yes,
into play. It's
correct.
already seeing play.
I played against these cards.
All right, moving on.
Next up is a Jero with eyes wide open
I was hoping you would go.
under the. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we don't want to get sued, man.
Under the double, triple. How many suns they have?
Under
Scott
the
Stapp-
sun rises.
Scott Stab would definitely sue us too. I think he's in need of some funds, probably. So
So this is 3 generic white for a legendary creature human warrior who is a 4/3. His vigilance, and it says when Jero with eyes wide open.
why is his eyes open?
No, you know what?
Why?
That's his name now. Jero, why your eyes open? Enters the battlefield. You may search your library for a planeswalker card, reveal it, put it into your hand. If a source would deal damage to a planeswalker you control, prevent one of that damage. So flavor wise, like Jero is like friends with Samut, who's about to apparently spark, but that's all we know. So this like tutors for a planeswalker, and it's kind of interesting. We have a similar effect like this in standard already.
Yeah, you can Thalia's Lancers for your Jeru,
Yeah.
and then cast your Jeru for your whatever Planeswalker, which seems really bad and slow, but you could do it.
The bubble effect is like cute, but probably like Like I think this card, like if there's a Super Friends deck, then like a creature that tutors for a Planeswalker, I think is pretty important. I do think it's awkward that Jero can tutor for the God Pharaoh. Like I don't think he wants that guy. Like I'll choose Nicol Bolas. No, I take it back.
I mean, at that point in time, you're paying
And then
like
he-
4 or 5 colors.
Then he
So
busts out a steel chair and then hits Salmon over the back.
It turns heel.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it should be Joe Willis with the steel chair.
Jero with the steel chair. That's actually incredible.
By the way, so weird interaction. I just looked up Sarkhan the Mad, and this interacts with Sarkhan the Mad because Sarkhan the Mad deals damage to itself with his 0.
Oh.
And it deals 1 less damage.
Oh, there you go. We did it.
Sure,
yeah.
We fixed it.
You can figure out your Mardu Sarkhan the Mad deck.
At 5 mana, this is like a really bad creature. But if your
Yeah.
deck wants to like tutor for a Planeswalker specifically, which as it stands right now, you could play that card and the Call the Gatewatch. Is that the one? What's the one that's like? There's Call the Gatewatch where you can search your library for a Planeswalker. What's the collected company for Planeswalkers? It's so standard.
Yeah, I don't know. The 6 mana thing.
Yeah, like you can do all the Planeswalker things you want.
I think the problem with this card is that it costs 5, and like if you do want to play it in a Super Friends deck, you're probably going to have a lot of Planeswalkers that cost like 4, 5, 6 mana. So it's kind of really awkward because it's like this is when you want to start casting your Planeswalkers, not like, all right, I'll play this first, then I'll cast the Planeswalker, and it's like a 4/3 for 5 vigilance really isn't lighting the world on fire. You know, what I mean?
No. If you had like first strike, I think first strike would probably be like pretty good at that
Still
point.
a tough ass. Still 4-3 for 5. It's just
It is, but at least it blocks more
not
effectively. You know, at least it can play defense a little bit better.
maybe.
I mean, this just gets eaten up by Glorybringer, so like, whatever.
Well, a lot of things do, but like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think ultimately this is going to be good enough, but
It's
kind
interesting.
Of, kind of a cool card.
It's an interesting effect.
And it's fun to think about him just bashing Samet with his steel chair. So that's where
right.
we'll leave it.
Gideon's Defeat is up next.
All right, so this is the first in the defeat cycle, which I think they're all going to be quite impactful, at least for standard. So Gideon's Defeat costs a single white for an instant, and it says exile target white creature that's attacking or blocking. If this was a Gideon Planeswalker, you gain 5 life. So kind of nice that we finally get a good answer to Gideon's in standard before he's about to rotate
You get a
out.
good answer.
Do you get a good answer?
You get a good answer
Yeah.
to
might
one
have-
Gideon.
to
You
one
wouldn't have this
Gideon.
card. I'll make tokens.
Yeah, no, I
you
know.
don't get a good answer to Gideon, ally of Zendikar.
Yeah, actually, this is the worst defeat of the cycle at actually killing a Gideon Planeswalker card.
correct.
That's
So-
true. They could just play around it, but still, I think it's a nice sideboard card. I mean, even if you're not hitting Gideons, just hitting any white creature.
Oh no, don't. Yeah, I agree with this. Like even like I just talked about the deck that's running like Avacyn's and like flashing in. This is a clean answer to an Avacyn that has indestructible. You know, you can just exile it. So I'm just like, regardless of how good this one is specifically, this cycle like makes me happy because of what it represents for their views on hate cards in standard.
Yeah. So I think this is a standard only. Card. Obviously, it's a sideboard card. It's pretty nice if you actually get the 5 life off of hitting a Gideon, but like I said, even if you're not hitting a Gideon, I think it's perfectly fine. So
Yep. Next up, we have Hour of Revelation. Hour of Revelation, you may remember from the giant game of Magic from Las Vegas.
You may have.
It was 3 generic and white for a sorcery. Hour of Revelation costs 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield.
Yeah, 3 generic less.
Yeah, 3, sorry. Destroy all non-land permanents. So this is a planar cleansing with a little bit of upside.
Yep.
And honestly, planar cleansing has seen play every time I've seen it in standard. So
Yes. I mean, that's like, if that's our base level, then like this card is
It's fine.
playable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and kind of interesting that we talked about the monument decks kind of like
Blowing
being
up.
pretty good. Like
And this like
That-
literally blows it up.
that deck alone can put in 10 permanents
They get a
on
turn.
itself.
Yeah.
And do you think about all the clues that they get? Those count as well.
Yeah.
to be fair, the monument, the ones with Selfless Spirit, this says destroy. So
yeah, they get around
you
it.
got to play around it. But
Right. But it still cleans up all the other.
but the Anointed Procession decks definitely also have difficulty
Yes.
with this. Yeah.
Very, very much so.
Right. So I think this is going to be a great standard card, even if you're not getting the discount all that often. Still perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one to build around. Unlike Planar Cleansing, this does have triple white in its cost,
It does.
and it stops you from playing cards like Cast Out for the most part. So, like, there are definitely like real costs to playing this card. Doesn't stop it from being good. It's just like you have to
Yeah.
build your deck very specifically to use this card correctly.
It is nice that it cleans up like a Gideon and all the tokens and like,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just really anything.
It's like a legitimate reset, which is
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
So we haven't had that in a little while.
Sure. Okay, so the next card is Oketra's Last Mercy. Really talking about this one? Okay.
Yep.
So it costs 1 white. It's a sorcery. It says your life total becomes equal to your starting life total, and then lands you control don't untap during your next untap.
yeah,
So
you
this is a-
exert yourself.
yeah, so this is I guess another in a cycle that we got. Each color got a rare last X card for each of the gods. This one,
No, there's only 4 of them. One of them is
Really?
Undying.
oh,
They're all like last except for Hazaret, who's is Undying. So Hazaret's like, I will not. Hazaret
that's
gives
a
us
little story spoiler for you right there.
Well, no, yeah, Hazaret gives a speech from Independence Day,
yeah,
and then just like doesn't die. So it's like,
that's what you gotta do.
we will live on. Thanks, Hazaret.
So, I mean, this is a card, I guess, for standard. Maybe you board this in against aggressive decks and you can gain like 15 life.
Yeah, what aggressive decks necessarily? Like, I don't see aggressive decks faring well after this set. I'll be perfectly honest with you two gentlemen.
But it's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I think it's definitely going to be a sideboard card if at all.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm putting it on the list mainly because I've seen a lot of people be like really high on this card, and we're even going to compare it to another card in green a little bit later. But like most of the time, effects like this look really splashy. But I think out of all of the last cycle that we're talking about, I think this is definitively the worst without like trying hard, and that includes Hazarets, which is not good.
Nope.
So don't overvalue these kinds of cards. Now, if you open it up in your pre-release, especially in your 2 at a Giant pre-release, awesome. One of you should play it because going back to 30 sounds sweet. But in Standard, like unless you're also cleaning up the board, gaining 15 life doesn't do very much. Like I convinced Dave to play the Team Energy deck because the deck consistently could set up a board and then tap your opponent down and then deal 20 to them. Like it doesn't. It's not how really decks operate. But you're not normally like sometimes you're getting like chip shot damage in, but a lot of times like unless you're dealing with the board too. And this card's tap clause makes it hard to do both. So don't play this card.
No, it's not good.
All right. The next card is Overwhelming Judge Calls. Overwhelming Splendor. 6 generic white for an enchantment or a curse. Enchant player. Creatures enchanted player control lose all abilities and have base power and toughness of 1/1. Enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. So this is like a really expensive one-sided humility, which is why I called it Overwhelming Judge Calls, because layering and humility is awful. Luckily, though, in Standard, there's, I think, only, like, you have a couple of weird cases, like Manlands have some interesting layering with these kind of effects. But for the most part, like, it's going to do what it says, which is really powerful. 8 mana is a lot for this, but making sure all of your creatures do nothing and making sure like all they can do is like activate planeswalkers or tap lands. That's a pretty powerful effect.
I was gonna say I don't think you have to worry about creature land layers because you can't even activate your creature lands.
Oh, that's true. Okay, that's fair.
So
my bad.
Yeah, they nipped that.
So yeah, you won't have to deal with that at least.
A lot of people, like Unlimited Wise, have compared this to like Sandworm Convergence. It's just like a big enchantment that when you cast it, it sort of ends the game to some degree. Now, of course, Sandworm Convergence makes a 5/5 and like protects you in some facet, and this does kind of makes our creatures 1/1s, which is pretty good.
I think the main difference is if you're comparing those two, and I guess we're talking about Limited now, which isn't really any of our forte, but I mean,
I don't know who's playing this in Standard.
No, but
I mean,
it's powerful. Don't
I think
get me
this
wrong.
card's playable in Standard. I think like comparing this to like Sandworm Convergence, like I think you have Sandworm Convergence gives you a clock you can win with, but this is in a color that is better at using this kind of effect to its advantage.
Stalling the game.
Yeah,
like maybe if you gain all your life back, and then you can.
Is this effect probably necessary? No, like you can probably just win the game in other fashions, but I do think, and especially since like against decks like this, like you probably are boarding in things like Planeswalkers. You know what I mean, against spell heavy decks. But I think this can probably will see Standard play.
I think the problem that you're going to see with this kind of card is the decks that you want to play this in. If you're going to try to play it in Standard, right, you're probably also going to want to play the Hour of Revelation, right? Which it's not really a great combo.
I agree with you on that. I'm not sure. I don't know what the best place for this is. This would have been a heck of a card for Marvel decks.
Yeah, no joke.
I'm not sure what this position is. Like I think of a deck like Zombies, where I think like Morgan, you mentioned you sort of like implied that like more aggressive decks or creature strategies aren't as well positioned because of things like Hour of Devastation. I don't know how many sweeper effects you've cast against Zombies, but that doesn't just end the game against them. They come back pretty consistently. They draw a lot of cards. They have their relentless triggers. They have a lot of ways of coming back. And this is a card that says, no, you don't anymore. Like, you actually do not. That deck has no way to come back from this, outside of like hoping enough 1/1s get there against the white deck that has Fumigates. So, now I'm not saying you want your 8-drop against Zombies, but I am saying there's enough utility creatures and I'll say aggro to mid-range-ish decks that have creatures with powerful abilities that this makes look very foolish. So, I think it's interesting.
It's certainly interesting. And hey, you know what? You could really try to brew with it in modern. So there you go. There's a few cards that you can.
Hey,
you can,
Enduring Ideal would probably want this.
There's a 7-mana epic spell that can get this.
yeah, it certainly is.
I think like if you look at it, Humility granted 4 mana, but Humility sees Legacy play, and the effect is powerful. So we'll see.
Yeah.
On you, Dave.
I don't think this next card is constructed playable, but
I think it's
Really?
interesting.
we could talk. I think it's an interesting card.
Okay,
but,
fair enough.
the next card is Saving Grace, which is an aura. And it
Sorry,
costs,
I definitely skipped over to Solemnity for a second. That's why I was really confused.
Oh, no, no.
Yeah, you're fair.
Solemnity Sweet, but Saving Grace costs 1 and a white. Is an aura, has flash. You can only enchant a creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, all damage that would be dealt this turn to you and permanents you control is dealt to enchanted creature instead. And then it grants the enchanted creature +0/+3. So it's kind of a fog.
You just put this on a stuffy doll or a Boris Reckoner.
Yeah, cool. But it only
Sorry,
works.
I just went to a cool place in my head. So.
Yeah, but it's not like Pariah where it's just always gets redirected. It's just the one shot.
Yeah, sometimes one shot's all you need.
Yeah, I think though. So I think
it's interesting.
This is
for
a really
standard.
interesting design of a card, and Flash makes this interesting. This card is really good against things like Glorybringer. Like this is a really cool answer in those kind of matches where like you just like need something like you like killing the Glorybringer is okay, but like making your opponent make bad combat decisions is better, right? Because in most cases, like you want to kill the Glorybringer before it exerts itself. But what if you can bait your opponent into exerting its Glorybringer and like trying to kill a guy, and that's gonna cause a difference on the board. And this is the card that stops that from losing the game because of it. Now that's a corner case, but I think like this card offers a really cool like function that we just haven't seen out of this effect.
I guess in a way, I mean, you can use it as kind of a sweeper protection.
Yeah, any
where,
damage-based sweeper.
Yeah, anything like Radiant Flames or something like that. You can play this, and maybe your one creature will die, but that's better than all your creatures die.
Your one token that you made with
With your monument.
yeah.
On the flip side, if they kill the creature in response, then womp womp.
Sure,
it doesn't work.
And if they counter the spell, your negate for their thing, like there's a lot of ways that happens no matter what effect you use.
But like, hopefully, this is like, oh well, they have to tap out on turn 5 to cast their Wrath, and I get to build them out with this 2-mana spell.
Let's talk about like Hour of Devastation, which is going to be just a great card, and this is literally just like an answer to it. So
yeah, I don't know if this one will be good enough, but. I think it's cool, and
it's certainly not main deck cool. But I think it has a spot in the format.
I think I'm going to try it in my cube if there's any constellation.
There you go.
That sounds great. Except most of the sweepers, a lot of the sweepers in your cube are -X, which makes me sad.
A lot of damage-based ones.
A few.
There's Savage Twister.
No, that one's not anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's Fire Spout.
It's Fire Spout, and Pyroclasm, and Canopy Surge,
and the black one.
Slice and Dice. Is Slice and Dice still in your cube?
No.
Isn't
well, black. Oh, the black one that does 3 damage, everything.
Yeah, the Famine.
a Feast or Famine?
Yeah, but
So 3 cards then. Okay. 4 for counting Surge. Anyways, I spent a lot of time on this, but I think this like effect, especially in this set, deserved a mention.
Yeah.
The next card is Solemnity, which is white and 2 colorless, 2 generic. For an enchantment, players can't get counters. Counters can be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands.
That means like I can play this and my blue opponent can't cast like Remand or anything, right?
No,
they can't get.
I'm sorry, no,
because they can't get counters.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to judge the pre-release this weekend, and I swear that'll probably happen. Like
my opponent cast cancel.
I have Solemnity in play, and my opponent tried to counter my spell, and they can't counter. And no,
they got a counter, and I'm like, you can't get that. All joking.
How did you get a counter? I said you can't have any.
Anyway, all joking aside, this card is pretty good.
You know what this card was for me? Like the meme of like the mind like expanding. It's like you start as like, oh, okay, like players can't get counters. Okay, so that energy,
Infect.
you can't get energy or infect, and then like other, okay, creatures can't get -1 counters or +1 counters. Okay, that's pretty cool against certain things. Then you're like, wait a minute, you can't get. Was Dark Depths?
Dark Depths
Dark Depths doesn't get counters. Anything with cumulative upkeep doesn't get countered.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just like,
crazy. Things with modular just die.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Kitchen Finks can go infinite again. Like, that card is just apparently made to go
So
infinite.
Kitchen Finks goes infinite, but you can't actually activate Devoted Druid.
This one is the first one that actively works with Geralf's Messenger too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do it. Kitchen Finks, you've had all the limelight. I want to drain you for 2, though. I want to drain you for 2 over and over
just do
again.
Red cap again, though, right?
Shut up, Dave.
It's an
I want
easier-
Geralf's
it's easier
Messenger to
cast.
work. No, I'm just going to play white-black. I don't need to cast red. I don't need a red
It's
or
only-
green.
It's only 2 black versus 3.
I don't care.
All right. Anyway, yeah, Kitchen Finks didn't need any more enablers to go infinite, but we got one.
Oh, you also can't get experience counters, by the way.
Yeah. Just in case.
Just throwing it out there for our EDH friends.
This is one of the cards that fundamentally changes the game.
yes.
I guess technically all the cards change the game, change the rules of the game, but this one changes it in a way that we haven't seen before.
This is like one of those cards like, just buy 4 of and like someone will figure out how to break it later.
Yeah, this
Or it'll be like a $10 sideboard card in Modern.
yeah, it's gonna be the centerpiece of some combo deck.
I think it's just certainly playable right now in Standard in general. Like, playing this against a Team Energy deck, and just like, you can't get energy, like, it's actually really tough. It makes half your servants all become just grizzly bears.
Nice
your harness
lightning.
lightnings can't do anything. Your Aether hubs can't do anything. Like, it's actually pretty powerful.
Yeah, it definitely shuts down that deck. If like Team Energy is something you're going to be playing going forward, like you have to dedicate some sideboard slots and really respect this card because it shuts down a lot of what you can do. You can still certainly win through it, but you are definitely hobbled.
You asked for that drain someone's like energy pool card. This is pretty close.
Yeah, I mean this is close. This is you don't get to remove counters, but people already had it. But it's just like it's funny the cards that you see like that. If Marvel was still in the format, like we had the humility you can cast on people, and then you have this card. It's like I don't understand what you're doing, Wizards, but it plumb don't make no sense. Is that our? That's our
that's
last one.
white.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. There were a bunch of white cards we talked about. Let's move on to blue.
I mean, white. I think Solemnity is one of the coolest cards in the set.
It's definitely the one that's getting like the most talk.
And like Crescent Sunmare is good. Like there's a couple cool things. I said like overall we're obviously not very high in the set, and there's probably a couple cards that we skipped that you would have liked. I know that some people like the 3/3 Angel, but like these cards are not. They're not positioned at all well against the other cards in Standard. Is there a time where in the future when things have rotated they could maybe shine? Maybe, but this set's pretty depowered overall. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. And then you gave a shout out to the angel that like blink stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Adorn Pouncer because I like cats.
We talked about back and forth. Should we talk about Adorn Pouncer? Fencing Ace never saw play.
It did.
In the hexproof deck.
Correct.
I'm so sorry. Sometimes it saw a 1 or 2 of play in the hexproof deck.
But hey, never in some of
But like
it's different.
I guess I don't know. Adorn Pouncer could see play. I know Morgan's going to build his cat deck, but
Cat deck.
those cards shouldn't be rares.
I agree.
The card we're going to talk about now, like at least it has an effect that maybe could be rare, but these cards seem actively bad.
Yep.
These cards are like, well, trust me, they're even better when they're eternalized. Oh, okay.
If we ever get there.
Like, cool.
All right.
Dave gets to start with our first blue one. So here
Blue.
you go,
Moving on
bud.
to blue, and Champion of Wits is up.
All right. Champion of Wits is 2 generic and a blue for a Naga Wizard. 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power, and if you do, discard 2 cards. It also has Eternalize, so you can activate this out of your graveyard for 5 blue, and then it enters the battlefield as a 4/4 black zombie. You get a token of this as a 4/4 black zombie. So, I don't think this is incredibly impressive. However, I do think it may have a slot in something like the blue-red Emerge deck that we've seen a little bit of in Standard. That's a deck that is, in order to get going, you kind of want a way to dump your prized amalgams and your other scabs into the graveyard. So I don't know. I think it could potentially see play there, but other than that, it's not incredibly impressive.
You will feel real bad when this gets magma sprayed with a trigger on the stack.
Yeah, the
you
good thing. The
I
good
mean,
thing is like
you won't.
except that you played 3 mana to do nothing.
No. If it's a magma spray, it checks power at last tad. The only thing that stops it from drawing 2 and discarding 2 is minuses.
yeah. So if they put like minus counters on it in response,
Its ability checks
or-
last stat.
Sure. But then you don't
grasp.
get the eternalized. You don't get.
Who's getting the eternalize anyways? It costs 7 mana.
I guess you have to take a look at the whole card. I mean, if we're going to talk about playability,
I understand that. I don't think this card is very playable.
Oh no, nor do I.
Here's the thing: there could be there could be like some sort of like reanimation strategy. We don't really have a good card for that. We have what's the 6 mana one from Shadows?
Ever After.
Thank you. Maybe that's a card that you could see some play, and this is an enabler for. Maybe there's something. Obviously it's going to be in standard for a long time, so maybe there's something. Coming in from Ixalan, that will. But this card seems so unimpressive for me for its rate that I can't. It has to be doing something specialized. Maybe like Dave said, maybe it does see play in the emerged decks. It is a 3 mana creature that can be emerged away pretty easily and put 2 cards in your yard. So maybe that's where it is. But it's only gonna. You're not gonna play this as a value creature. You know what I mean? Like you're just not gonna do that. And I think it's so bad. It looks so bad.
I think they're very careful on how they made this.
I don't think you were trying to make a pun there, but I'm going to pretend like you were. Did they have to study carefully?
Yes, they started it very carefully.
I hope you're. I mean, if you're excited about this card, fine. But I'm going to say this again. Like these cards, like we're talking about here, this is the one that feels closest to a rare, just because like the draw 2, discard 2, and then draw 4, discard 2 feels powerful. But like the way they're costed and set up, like these don't seem appealing for standard at all. So I don't know. I don't know how many times I have a chance to just like be like, well, I'm just going to pay 7 mana to make a 4/4 to draw. Like I hope I have time to do that, I guess. And then your opponent cycles their bird and counters it. Anyways,
We didn't get to that one yet.
I'm sorry. Let's talk about Jace's defeat. We're not talking about Hour of Eternity, by the way. I'm sorry. Jace's defeat is a blue and a generic and a blue for an instant counter target blue spell. If it was a Jace Planeswalker spell, scry 2. We had Gainsay pretty recently. Theros block.
I think this is Andrew Cuneo's favorite card in the set, probably.
Yeah, he'll have to change his name on Magic Online to Jace's defeat because
that's really bad.
Wow. The Gainsay saw a fair amount of play when it was legal.
Yep.
And this is pretty efficient if you get into like those counter mirrors, like blue red control. I could definitely see immediately adopting a couple of Jace's defeats, just like so you have something that like is better than negate, right? Because you can counter like Gear Hulk too.
Yeah, exactly. You can counter the Gear Hulk.
And if they ever do play 5 mana Jace, man, you get that sweet scry too. Which I think I watched a blue red control player resolve a Jace against Dave this weekend, so Dave could have scried too. Just saying.
I could have. But
and by the way, if you ever do get to just counter a spell, like a 5 mana spell with this card and then scry 2, you're doing well. You're feeling real good afterwards. So, but I mean, like it's a generic effect we've had before, but I think it's again fine.
And Jace is getting his mind blown. He is that mind expansion meme right now. He's the last one, but it's not good. He's getting his mind filled with Nicobolus.
It's like show me what you got. Oh God,
It's too much.
all right. Next card. Am I gonna get all these? This is Kefnet's last word with his weird hands and his spooky things.
I did a
going on.
memorial.
weird
I did a
big
memorial
hands.
in show chat for his weird hands like this and like lay claim. It was just like, oh God.
All right, so Kefnet's last word is a sorcery that costs 2 blue. It says gain control of target artifact, creature, or enchantment, and then lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. So this is kind of a control magic, I guess, but it costs 8. I mean, it costs 4. I think like a good way to evaluate these is the fact that you don't untap, so you're essentially paying 4 to cast it, and then you're losing 4 mana the next turn at least.
Yeah. All these spells have like Echo Plus.
Right. So
Now Echo, you could at least choose. You could
I guess
choose to
that's
pay
true.
for it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. This is a
And
must.
Echo is a beloved mechanic too, so it's good. Nope.
No.
I do think this card is pretty close to playable. Not being able to hit Planeswalkers is a bit of a bust. Maybe that's too powerful. But being able to target artifacts, creatures, or enchantments, like there's some interesting things you could take. Maybe that Overwhelming Splendor your opponent just cast. Just saying.
That's going to be sweet and limited if that ever happens.
Yeah, but I think like this card is the close enough one. I mean, control magic is good. We haven't had mind control in almost 4 years, 5 years at this point.
I mean, we have confiscation coup.
Yeah, you're right. You don't like we have confiscation. Before that, we had.
I think the last one we had was the 4-mana one when Blue Devotion was.
Yeah, and now when you could discard a card, right? Or no, if it was that the one you could power 4 or more? Was that the one?
Yeah, if it had power 4 or more, it fell off.
But
domestication.
Thank you. Yeah, but like it's a confiscation coup. The one from Zendikar.
Exert influence.
I'm glad you remember all these.
All of them. I wish I could remember anything worthwhile.
Like those are not comparable to mind control though. Like they have effects that are permanent, but they all have like if clauses. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
Like if you like exert influence can't have more than 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can't do it. Can't take a 6-drop ever. And confiscation coup is limited by the amount of energy you have, which is minimum 4 for the spell, but again, like can be tough. So actual mind control, just like this is mine for this amount of mana, is good. It's a strong effect.
I just don't know if it's worth 8 mana.
It may not be.
I was gonna say I heard stories of Metalwork Colossus getting confiscation coup this past weekend. So
that's fair. But sometimes confiscation coup definitely can't take a Colossus. This could. Now, but see, this is the one I think you have to look at in reverse though. Like this one feels better for costing 8 mana because you got the effect on turn 4.
It's like you're gaining mana. Like if you take somebody's Glorybringer, it's like okay, I spent 4 and then 8, but I'm gaining 5 back.
The inherent like 2 for 1 you're gaining from taking their permanent that they now have to spend cards to get rid of. You know what I mean? Like is at least negates some of. I'm not saying it's like great, but like it definitely feels like it negates the issue with the lands a little bit better than some of the other ones do.
I suppose. Like the thing that bothers me about these cards is like they don't like the downside is always the downside. It never like you never escape it. The longer the game goes on, you can
I agree with that.
You can take better things, but your lands are still locked, and like you can't like even if you double spell, like you're just making your next turn worse.
No, I agree. That assessment of them in general, I absolutely agree.
So like that's why they just always feel bad, and like even these like effects, no matter what you print on them, like they just always feel bad to me.
This feels like such a I agree with you. It is a very bad downside
because like we compared to like a lot of this how mechanic works to like shaman mechanics in Hearthstone, because shaman have cards that lock out your mana slots for a turn, but those scale well. These like always like take all of your lands if you tap out, and the shaman spells only take a certain number of mana crystals.
These cards costing that like so if you cost 4, which when you have 10 lands to play is when you have to cast it. These definitely feel like worse, and for that reason, you're right. They definitely scale very poorly. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm not saying this will see play, but the effect is powerful enough to see play.
Try. Yeah. I think this is one of the better ones.
Yeah. I don't just be a bad card, but
yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Next up, we have Nimble Obstructionist. This is a generic and or 2 generic and a blue for a 3/1 creature bird wizard. Has flash and flying. It also has cycling for a 2 generic and a blue. And then when you cycle Nimble Obstructionist, counter target activated or triggered ability you don't control. Couple cool things about this card. 1, you can just decide when you want a 3/1, or 2, you can counter some really sweet things, including like Planeswalker activations or Evolving Wilds.
The Almond Joy mounds of a Magic card. Sometimes you feel like a nut, and sometimes you don't.
This is true. It's good.
You can even counter things like Smuggler's Copter activations, Emrakul, the Promised End, Trigger,
stop naming band cards.
Mage, and
Aetherworks Marvel. Yeah, stop making band cards.
It's just allow.
I'm talking about modern. I don't know what you guys are talking about. But
no. But a couple things. One, I think this was mentioned on. I think it was Magic the Amateuring I was listening to, and they have their judge episode, and he mentioned something pretty important about this. So there's always like I've said before on here, like Cross and Tusker was a card that I was always like, do I draw first or do I? You get the land first. Like Sheffet Monitor, you get the land first, and it tells you that. This card, you better counter first, because if you go cycle and draw a card and be like, well, I was countering this, but you didn't say anything, you didn't do anything. It definitely
that's good to point out.
Like if you didn't do anything and you resolved your cycling, like you didn't do anything. So be careful. Like be like you say cycle, and then you say target this, and then you wait for that to happen before you draw your card. So be aware of this.
Yes.
Okay. And I was like, yeah, good call. And he was like, he literally goes, they put the reminder text on the uncommon So I'm not sure why they didn't put it on the rare, because it was helpful. Like, well, yeah, that's a good point. So,
I think
it's a good card,
this is
though.
great. I think this is a great card for standard. I think it. I mean, in addition to just countering things, like you mentioned, planeswalkers, I think it'll be a good card for pressuring planeswalkers.
Yeah, because
I mean, even if you're not countering anything, you just end a turn up.
Well,
with
it's
this.
a perfect card for pressuring planeswalkers because on turn 3 you play Drakehaven, so you get to counter something and you get to get a 2/2 Drake when you cycle this. So I just put David to either a sad place or a happy place. I don't know where I put him.
No, it's more of a. That was like a super eye roll. Like I had to close my.
What
eyes.
did you think you were going to cast on turn 3 when you had this card in hand?
I don't know.
All right, let's move on to Supreme
Couldn't have
Taco.
been this card. Supreme Taco.
Supreme Taco.
Excuse me, I mean Supreme Will.
Oh, Supreme.
Who's
Taco
Will?
Supreme.
Who's Will? Why is he so supreme?
Oh, this card's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
All right, Supreme Will is 2 generic and a blue instant. You choose one, counter target spell unless its controller pays 3, or look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So this is kind of a mana leak / impulse split card. Costs 1 more. I think we said this before. You know, charm type cards or cards that give you like modal spells. Oftentimes they'll seem overcosted. You know, if you could just like, well, 3 mana for this effect or 3 mana for this effect, it's kind of overcosted. But the choice is what makes it such, you know, a versatile and great card. This one, I think it's definitely playable in standard. I don't know about any older formats, but
I like it in standard.
yeah.
I like that in standard you can now build a blue deck if you wanted to that goes like Censar on 2 and Supreme
Yeah.
Will on 3, and then like they're never dead draws.
Right.
Like they're not hard counters, so like there's a trade off to that. But like you also just have like a lot of flexibility in your draw steps later in the game, which makes me really happy.
Yeah, I mean, like you still have the, you know, disallow is still a good hard counter at the 3 spot. But if you, I mean, people have played. What's the 3 mana counter unless they pay 4?
Shoot, I played it a bunch. It's an Eldrazi one.
Spell Shrivel.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Thanks for the backup, Dave. Appreciate it.
Asked and answered his own question.
Yeah.
So I mean, Spell Shrivel has seen play, and I don't think it had anything to do with like the fact that they had to pay 4. I think it was more just it's a 3 mana, you know, single blue
costs
counter.
1 color.
Yes. Yeah.
At the time.
No double blue. Yeah, it's
Right.
very important.
So I mean, this is a card that's pretty nice because you can hold up the counter spell, and then if they don't want to play into it, then you're like, okay, well, I'll just impulse.
The modal instant speed ability is really nice. Like just being able to hold it up and like never losing a turn, never like time walking yourself is really nice.
Yeah, and it's also nice to flashback with a Gear Hulk. I mean, much like any blue instant is, but it gives you kind of a proactive
This card is Gear Hulk approved.
Yeah, you can counter on the front side, but then Gear Hulk and like get a
and
card
then just
too.
draw a card. Yeah, and then maybe find another Gear Hulk. You know, keep it rolling. But yeah, I think this is a sweet spell. I know, Mike, you putting this in the battle box, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
And-
I'm cutting Impulse to put this in. So like, sorry, guy.
Hey, more flexibility.
Well, because I have Impulse and I'm pretty sure I have Forbidden Alchemy too. So it's like,
Yeah, it's kind of the same.
They all can't be in there.
Blue has so many cards. I gotta cut stuff. So it stinks though too because that FTV 20 Impulse is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Next up, we're going to do Tragic Lesson. I do want to make a quick mention of Swarm Intelligence, which we're skipping.
Yeah, Swarm Intelligence could be busted. I don't know.
One-sided Hive Mind is interesting, though most of the time I've seen Hive Mind kill, it's because your opponent got it.
Yeah.
Hive Mind, right? Because it's like Locust.
Yeah.
We also had Curse of Echoes.
Yes.
That was also a way to like hurt your opponents because like you counter magic and stuff. So this could be busted. I don't know. We're not going to talk about it because the effect is pretty like we know what it is at this point. But I just want to make mention that like
It exists.
So Tragic Lesson is a 2 generic and a blue for an instant. Draw 2 cards and discard a card unless you return a land you control to its owner's hand. Now this doesn't seem too like crazy. We had this effect pretty recently in Standard. If we still don't, draw 2, discard 1 for 3. I'm trying to remember the generic card it is.
Catalog.
This is Catalog. That's the one. Which is like playable. Like this card's also playable. The unless you return a land you control to your owner's hand is interesting. And if you don't know, then this kind of works pretty well with Kefnet.
Yeah, it's kind of the Kefnet ability.
Yeah. So
Right.
like, but like the idea is like if you want your Kefnet to attack, you can cast this card and just have 3 cards in hand afterwards, like 3 additional cards.
Don't let Kefnet see the art on this card though.
Oh, no,
It's
he'll
kinda
be
like,
sad.
It's like, oh no, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, it's weird that
Hey, you guys teaching people? What are you teaching them? The future. You don't want to know the future.
It's bad. It doesn't.
I'm a god. I could. Oh no! Who wrote this?
Whose blood is that?
Whose blood is that?
Why am I sleeping?
Is this like the weird movie where like Kefnet's like all of a sudden he realizes like people aren't responding to me and he looks and he's like ethereal. He's like, I'm a ghost. It's like just got Bruce Willis. But I think this card is pretty interesting as like there's a lot of different. We went for a long time with like no just like options for draw spells, but now you can play like this. You can play Hieroglyphic Illumination. You can play Glimmer of Genius, which is like sort of the default. You have Pool from Tomorrow, right? Like. It's kind of nice to like say, "Hey, Blue, you draw cards sometimes."
Yeah, it's like
we thought that green did that all the time, but it turns out it was always blue. It's weird.
They're slowly giving it back to blue, and it's like they're realizing, oh, you know what? This actually isn't that great if blue doesn't have.
You're like the first one they gave blue was like definitely like blue took it into the corner and like looked around and then like they're like, no, we have more, and it was like, huh? Like Blue's learning to trust again, like so letting people scratch it behind the ears again and stuff. Like it'll be okay, Blue.
Well,
I'm really sad now because my parents' dog's name was Blue, and now I want to put my dog.
Oh,
so I don't know. I think they finally realized that giving Blue decent counter spells, which there are a lot of decent counter spells I think in standard right now. An instant speed card draw. It's not going to be the end of the world. I think for a while they were a little reluctant to do that, and I think they have come around to be like, you know what, like. The threats that people have are really threatening. Like, Planeswalkers are really good. Like, if you can stick a Planeswalker against the blue deck, it's going to do some damage. So, it's like we're slowly getting it back.
Yeah.
We're getting it back to, like, the Drago style, which may or may not even be good anymore.
But I like what this card can do. Like I said, this card also may see no play. But being able to set up your Kefnet, or even, like, if you didn't draw a land off of it, but, like, so you can make the decision afterwards of, like, you want to bounce land to untap it. You know what I mean? Like, those are all cool little things about this card.
Yeah, there's a couple like little interesting things. Like, you can bounce a cycling land to cycle it. We still have landfall cards for a very short period of time. So if you need, hit landfall the next turn, you get that. So.
Yep, I'm sure that'll have to happen a lot.
No, it won't. All right, last blue card is an oldie but goodie, Unsummoned.
Say what?
OG. Yeah. That was surprising to see. It was funny because I was sold kind of a bunch of bulk at the Invitational, and part of that was I randomly had like 4 beta unsummons for some reason. I don't even know why. And then I saw that was reprinted. I'm like, I'm going to hold on to these just in case.
So if you don't know what Unsummon does, it's a single blue and it's return target creature to its owner's hand.
Yeah. So this we might be like, okay, like you didn't talk about like the Hive Mind card, we're talking about this. It's important to note that after the Delver decks were in Standard and we had Vapor Snag and Unsummon, they stopped printing that effect.
Yeah.
Like
1 mana.
At 1 mana. After that, we got Void Snare, which was a sorcery that returned non-land permanent. And then we've had like weird things like Select for Inspection in Kaladesh, where a creature has to be tapped. All of these are like unsummons with conditions because Vapor Snag and Unsummon as a tandem. And granted, there was normally only like a 1 or a 2 of the Unsummon. Mostly it was Vapor Snag, but the tempo tandem along with like Snapcaster and Restoration Angel put a lot of like just decks off the map. Like you just couldn't play them. You talked about the Jace test before that. Like, could you bounce your creature? It's like, well, it's literally the reason they printed Thragtusk. I don't know if you know that, but like if you know Thragtusk, the 5/3 green creature that when it leaves play, it leaves behind
not when it dies.
Yeah, it's because of Unsummon. Like it's because of bounce effects at single mana.
Man.
So like if you're wondering like why it's surprising, this effect was considered absolutely format warping. Now you can say that's because you had Snapcaster Mage and Delver and Restoration Angel, some of the best creatures together that still see play together. Like they still get together and take the band on the road. So
they certainly do.
Kind of like Third Eye Blind, but but I think it's interesting to see this back. Is there a deck that could take advantage of it? I don't know. I mean, will it ever stop? But never. Sorry, I reversed those lines, and it was too late after I started. But seeing this here again is interesting. Like for a set that's so like underpowered, for them to like sort of sneak this in, like, oh, and Unsummon's back. Like, wait, what? What's back?
I think it's an unsuspecting effect that can prove potent. So we'll see what happens.
I think it's pretty interesting for limited too, with all the cartouches and stuff like that.
All the big, random creature tokens that float around because of Eternalize and a Balm.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could definitely draft like blue tempo in this format now too, because you have this, and then you have Winds of Rebuke in the Kaladesh pack.
You certainly do.
So you can be that. I
Not
trust me.
Kaladesh, Amalgam
Wow,
pack.
my bad. But like, I definitely like those are some of my favorite draft formats. Like the draft formats where like Disperse is good. I'm in.
All right.
So
And that's blue. So moving right along, let's just jump right into black.
Aim it Eternal. Aim it or Amit?
I think it's Amit.
Is it an Amit? All right, Amit Eternal. This is a 2 generic and a black for a 5/5 creature, zombie, crocodile, demon.
It's a lot of different things. Wears a lot of different hats.
Moms from Carolina, do you still want in on these demon crocodiles? Afflict 3. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a -1/-1 counter on Amit Eternal. Whenever Amit Eternal deals combat damage to a player, remove all -1/-1 counters from it. So this one is interesting. We talked before when we saw Afflict. It would come down to whether or not there are some interesting designs with it, and I think there are. There's a blue creature we didn't talk about because it doesn't really have constructed implications, but it was essentially a like a thieving magpie that had Afflict on it. I think that was cool. That creates a balance. Or this is interesting. Like 5/5 for 3 is nothing to scoff at, but we already saw like in the last format like Plague Belcher, which is a card that got a lot of eyebrow raises, but hasn't really seen play. So the downside of those counters is real. So here you're trading off like this 5/5 for 3 that like you want to chump block it, but chumping it isn't really going to do very much. But you don't want it to hit you because your way to kill it is just to play your magic normally, is just to cast spells. So if it hits you, it's longer to do that. So this sort of like hits that sweet spot in between both of them and creates what I think is a pretty powerful card.
Yeah, especially when you take into consideration that zombies as an archetype, specifically mono black zombies, already exists. So this could theoretically find a spot. I don't necessarily know what you are moving around in that deck to make room for it. But it's a potentiality for sure.
Yeah.
This feels like the next in line of a long line of Phyrexian Scuda type cards, where we're still searching for the the Juzam Jijin, right?
Yeah.
That was the original black 5/5, fatty that was undercosted for its time.
To you, yeah.
Yeah. And we're still searching for that remake. I don't know that this one will ultimately see play, but it is. I will agree it's a cool design. I think it's a cool use of Afflict on it starts out as a larger creature, and Afflict 3 is one of the larger Afflict numbers that we've seen. So we'll see. I mean, I think if you're looking at a zombie tribal, I think zombies is already kind of glut. There's a glut of the 3 drops. So.
Yeah.
It's important to note, though, that post-rotation, with zombies may not be a thing post-rotation because you do lose a lot of key cards, especially the 1s and 2 drops, but you do lose things like the Colossus. So you will have room for 3 drops. Again, Plague Belcher's there, too. This card's interesting, though, with Lord of the Accursed, because Menace in this creature is real interesting.
Yeah, it's a nice little combination.
Just play it with a Solemnity, and then it'll never get -1/-1 counters.
Combo.
Yeah.
All right, next up. You did it again.
Bantu's Last Reckoning. Cost generic black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. So it's a 3 mana Wrath in black, but not really 3 mana. This one, I still don't know what to think of this card. I mean, it still suffers from the same kind of drawback that we talked about with the previous versions in the cycle here, but this one's just kind of awkward because it's like, hey, look, it's an undercosted Wrath, but on turn 3, what are you killing? That's really all that threatening. This is more of, I personally see this more of like a mid to late game. You play this for 3, sweep up the board, and you still have mana left over to clean up whatever.
And when we
else.
talked about it before, it was like, this is the card that I think the key to this card being good is allowing you to cast it and also keep up counter magic. And like that is because that's normally the bane. I mentioned before about how like the zombies deck is so good at recovering from a wrath. You know what I mean? How it could set up its board again. So sometimes you just want to be able to interact and play the wrath deck. And if this card's going to be good, I think that is really the room for it to be good. Now that could also just mean it won't be, but it's there. You know.
It certainly is.
I can also say what's being depicted on this card. Bantu is the worst written character possibly ever. Like, I want you to know, I've made a lot of criticisms about Chandra and how like they just like, oh, I'm red and I'm angry and I can't light things on fire, and they do that character a disservice. Bantu was the worst. Like, just like, I'm following the God Pharaoh, and it's like apparently knew that the God Pharaoh was going to kill the other ones, and Hazaret's like, why are you doing this? And she's like, because I crave power. And it's like, but you're a god, you're omnipotent. Like, logically, you would understand that a being of greater power wants nothing to do with you, right? And immediately Nicol Bolas just kills her. And it's like, you knew this. Everybody knew this. But literally, it was like, Hazaret's like, Bantu, why are you doing this? And she's like, because I'm a black creature. Look at the color wheel.
So
like,
I think I saw
like, why?
the best thing on Twitter, which is at this point in time, Samet must be making so many like office Jim Halpert look directly at the camera moves. Like, I feel like that and Samet's just like
I don't want to say like I told you so, but man, did I tell you so.
Just like, yeah, probably.
Like, so much being told so.
All right.
So, all right. Next card here is, make sure I have the right one queued up.
You gotta say it right.
Doomfall.
Yes.
All right, I was making sure I helped you out there. Doomfall is another modal card. This is 2 generic and a black for a sorcery. Choose one. Target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls, or target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile that card. So this is either a like Diabolic Edict or a Coercion is the card I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah, it's like Cruel Edict or Coercion.
Yeah, I guess sorcery, right?
Sure.
But I guess the key here is for in both cases it exiles instead of anything else, which is interesting. I'm less high on this one than I am on Supreme Will because making your opponent like choose a creature to sacrifice is always more powerful in older formats where like people have decks where they spend a lot of work trying to get a big creature into play, as opposed to like standard where most of the time you have like, you know, you have filler. Or
How about
like,
that deck? That was making a whole bunch of white
or a
tokens.
Ketra's Monument that every time
Yeah.
they cast a creature, the token comes into play first. Like, it's a trigger on cast.
Like,
so,
you never get them.
which is like, this is sorcery.
Also,
anyway.
the sorcery,
But-
you're never going to get them anyway.
So like this card, that part of it really doesn't feel well positioned. But the coercion effect is not bad. You know, getting to choose and pick any card. We've talked before about how so much of our discard is like it just misses so much. You're like, oh, so close. Labor of the Heart. Oh, nah, it's kind of close, but not really. Oh, like this one hilariously can finally get a Heart of Kirin, but it does it after Heart of Kirin's been cast.
Yes, correct. Accurate.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This one I really don't feel like it's going to see much play, but it was a card that got a little bit of buzz when it first got spoiled, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you compare this to the other modal cards, Supreme Will, and you mentioned, you know, it's not as good. I think the reason is because Supreme Will always, at the very least, just draw you another card. You know what I mean? There are definitely many situations where you'll draw this and you're like, well, this is not going to impact the board very significantly, and my opponent like doesn't have any cards in hand.
Yeah,
or
like,
you know,
this feels obviously like a sideboard card, so hopefully those situations would be few and far between. But it's definitely not as good as Supreme Will.
right?
Will is still more supreme.
But it might see some fringe play, I would say. All right, so Hour of Glory.
You mean, shh, no trials, only dreams now.
So, Hour of Glory is 3 and a black instant. Exile target creature. If that creature was a god, it's are you a god?
Say yes.
You say no to this one. If the creature was a god, its controller reveals his or her hand and exile all cards from it with the same name as that creature. Now, when I originally read this card, I thought it was like Deicide, where it exiled like from the deck. You know, you search the library and exile all the copies. No, just hand. So that's kind of weird. But
I don't know. 4 mana exile a creature is fine, I guess. For 1 more mana, you get a similar effect at common, like in Kaladesh. So, I don't know.
I mean, and even at this point,
You mean Amoket, by the way.
That's the Kaladesh again?
Yeah, you did.
I tell you which side I liked more.
At least from what we've seen so far in Standard, the gods haven't really caught on. We've seen
though.
We've seen not Bonte. Ronus, yeah. Ronus has been pretty good, but even then it's like a 2 of. And then Hazret has seen some play as like a 1 or a 2 of. So
Post rotation that could change.
It definitely could change.
And this does a good job of sort of cleaning them up to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really desperate to kill some indestructible creatures, then you could do this. But it is a little overcosted. I mean, I don't think they could cost this any cheaper than what it is, but like for constructed play, I don't know. I don't think this is going to be that great.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. All right, up next, Liliana's Defeat. This is a single black for a sorcery. Destroy target black creature or black planeswalker. If that permanent was a Liliana planeswalker, her controller loses 3 life. This one's really good. Again, we've had a card similar like this in Theros, Dark Betrayal.
Yeah,
which is a single black to destroy target black creature.
Now, to be fair, in Theros, mono black Devotion was the best deck in the format.
Sure, but that card, I mean, I've seen that card boarded in like Modern, so that was a card that I definitely went over, like looking at answers like Death Shadow. I was like, man, Dark Betrayal is kind of sweet actually. And this card being able to hit planeswalkers as well. Liliana, the Last Hope, has been a card that does not have a lot of great answers. If you look at something like Grixis Shadow in Modern, this card answers that card and Death Shadow and Tasigur and Grimag Angler. That's pretty good.
It is sorcery speed, which is a downside.
It is, but people also like to bring in Dispel against those decks.
Yeah.
So, like, that's also interesting. Obviously, Summoner Nile is, like, number 1 at the moment. But, and then, in Standard, there's plenty of ways that this could see play. It's, this kind of removal is, like, fine against something like zombies, but being able to destroy Lilianas are fine.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think you hit it there. I mean, I think this is the defeat card that is most likely to see Modern play, but yeah, even for Standard, even if you're hitting a Lord or something in the zombies deck, I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, 1 mana, I mean, it's the best cost other than 0, so
yeah. The first time, probably the only time you get to like hit your opponent's Liliana with this and then kill them. Feels really good.
I mean, you can hit like Obnixilis in Standard, which is like really sweet.
Yeah, but you're trading your 1 mana. I want them to lose 3 life.
Yeah, but you're trading your 1 mana for their 5 mana.
Sure.
Like so
also kills Nicol Bolas.
It does.
Yeah.
Which is a thing.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah. I think like if you're looking at Modern 2, Liliana's, I mean both Lilianas are some of the few planeswalkers that you would expect to see in a Modern tournament.
Yeah.
A little bit extra value there. All right, what do we get next here?
Razaketh.
Razaketh.
Razaketh. Razaketh.
Razaketh, the foul-blooded.
Hey, your blood be foul.
Your blood's so foul, man.
You gotta take a shower, man. Got that foul blood.
It's so dirty, it's in his blood.
I think of Tim and Eric right now for some reason. Smells like meat. Rotten meat. Which one of you kids brought that rotten meat in here? Was it you, Razaketh?
It probably was Razaketh.
So Razaketh, the foul-blooded, costs 5 black, legendary creature demon. It's an 8/8 flying trample. It has the ability of pay 2 life and sacrifice another creature to search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. So, pretty powerful effect. Obviously, costs a lot if you are hard casting it, though I don't know that many people would be doing that. If you talk about, a reanimator style strategy, this is definitely one of the payoffs, or one of the cards that you would want to reanimate.
Is it, though?
I think so.
Don't you have to have other creatures in play to make this card worth it?
Sure.
Don't those decks almost never have other creatures in play?
Well, traditionally, yes, but I think you can build them in a way that
Would building it in that way make it a better deck than what it already is?
I don't have the answer to
Okay,
that.
because I think you know the answer to that.
I'm just saying.
The effect is definitely powerful. It is.
It's a great effect.
In a pure like I'm going to reanimate one creature kind of strategy that you see in both Modern and Legacy.
Yeah.
I think this is far and away the worst thing you could be doing compared to what they're already doing.
I'm talking about for Standard. Yeah, this is definitely not as good as Gristlebrand.
And for Standard, I don't know how we're again ever after. I guess.
I wish this...
Liliana can do it, which is really awkward. I don't know why Liliana would. Like, bring him back to life. No.
I'd rather not. I already dealt with them. This card would have been really cool for like Junk Reanimator, because that deck did like coincidentally have like a bunch of like random derpy 1/1s.
Fighters.
Well, like I'm talking about like old like Angel Serenity like Craterhoof, because that deck didn't play. That deck didn't play Grizzlebrand or anything like that, I don't think.
Yeah, so maybe you play your Champion of Wits to dump this into the graveyard, and then you reanimate it, and then you can sacrifice the Champion of Wits.
No, none of that is good. None of that is appealing to me.
No, I don't know. I don't know what the deck looks like, but it is a powerful effect.
Probably.
It looks like a bad deck.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you're able to activate it, like, so even if they have a removal spell, right? Even if you're able to activate it once, you can go, get another way to reanimate it and bring it back.